Hello, beautiful Vancouver people. How are you guys all doing? Really excited to be here today. I think we have a pretty good squad up here, people that I work pretty closely with. So I'm just going to hand it off to Ori, and then going this way, and we'll just introduce what we do.
Cool. My name is Ori. I work at Monstercat. I do artist development, working hands-on with our artists on a day-to-day basis, release strategies, things like that. I also manage our Monstercat Instinct brand, which is a sort of dance pop crossover side of the label. I guess, does anyone here not know who Monstercat is, or know who Monstercat is? No. So I should have probably started with that. We're a Vancouver-based electronic music label. We're about 50 employees, been in Vancouver for about 5 or 6 years now. We work primarily in the dance and music space, about 60 artists on the label, and we put out music 4 times a week.
How's it going? My name is Andre. I run Trap Nation, which is electronic dance curation channel. It's part of a MCN called The Nations, which is a 7-channel network that curates music from chill music to hip hop, R&B, indie, most major genres. Started in 2012. It's an LA-based company with about 15 full-time employees now, and we're a full-service media company with a record label, publishing company, management, and live events.
Hello, I'm Christine, content and licensing manager at The District. We are a management company for YouTube music curation channels, such as The Nations. So as content and licensing manager, my day-to-day is filtering and facilitating content that comes from our label partners like Sony, Universal, Warner, Ninja Tune, M-Theory, Spinnin', any label you can think of really in electronic music, and help get their content to the right curators, because a lot of them don't understand which channels they're supposed to send things to. So I just make sure that we get it to the right ones, and when they get it from us, they trust that it's been pre-listened to and they'll hopefully like it. And on the other side, I help our curators get permission for songs that they might not have their own connections for, so placing requests for content to our label partners and just fostering positive relationships between all sides of the YouTube curation space. Make sure everyone's being good boys and girls.
I'm Shannon. I'm the label manager at The District. So basically my job at The District is to help any curation channels that want to build labels out of their channel. And so it's an interesting concept. We already have the community to sort of market our releases. So we just upload it on the channel or put it in the Spotify playlist. And we also really rely on The District's network of curators like Andre, who helps a lot. So yeah, basically my job is to manage distribution and artist relations, and that's what I do there. So to start it off, just got some notes here, pardon me. So the first thing I guess we'll go over is just the process of music submission. So I think Christine and Andre can speak to this a lot, is do you guys get music fatigue? Do you guys get tired? And do you ever second guess what you're putting out or what you're sort of supporting? I'll let you speak to that first, Christine.
So for the submission process, currently everything comes to me through email mostly. So labels will send us key information for their releases, such as release date, ISRC codes, metadata, and a streaming/download link. So they send it to me. They ask me which channels I think it would work for. So then I will listen to all of the music and decide which curators need to hear it and pass it along to whoever I think would like it. And then the curator will get back to me. Sometimes it takes a day or an hour. Sometimes it can take a week or two, depending
longer,
on
sometimes
or
way
longer or
longer.
never. Who knows? But if they do get back to me, then I will just relay back to the rights holder that someone is interested, we get our permission form signed for them, or if there's an overarching deal that we have with a label, then usually it's just good to go. There's always a bit of back and forth getting all the key elements that we need, but it's pretty straightforward, just sending music, getting it up on the channels. Right now we're also launching a submissions platform, which is making it easier for everyone to get the music to us with all of the information that we need without us having to ask for missing pieces and such, and so that they can see which channels have said yes or no or pending without us having to update every single person via email. So that's kind of the current process.
With me, it's a little scattered. I mean, obviously, when I started it started with email submissions, which is, as everyone knows, it's not the most efficient thing in the world. Right now, actually, in the last 6 months, I work with the district when it comes to submissions through a different portal they kind of manage. I think it's called submission.trapnation.io or something like that. I should know that, but
Brand new.
yeah, no, people submit it through there, and then we have multiple A&Rs that go through the music, and they'll kind of submit it and send any of the stuff that they think is priority towards me. It saves me time, and also that's kind of their job as well. And that's kind of how I check music now from a day-to-day basis. And for music fatigue, yeah, for sure. If you're listening to over like 200, 300 songs a day, and they all sound quite similar, yeah, it gets pretty annoying. But it's just part of the job, so it is what it is, yeah.
I think being like primarily more on the label side, the fatigue is a little different. We do receive about 50 to 100 demos a day. I personally do not listen to them. We have people on the A&R team who handle that. The fatigue that I think I more experience is in the like A&Ring of a record, the back and forth going with an artist, especially with the artists that we work with on a more long-term basis. They're not always sending us finished tracks. So, where Christine, you're probably getting like pretty damn close to final masters. We're hearing things in very early stages, and our job is to kind of, work through with the artist and guide them in the right direction, provide them with the resources that they need to kind of finish this song. And in that sense, you're hearing 50 versions of a record. You're having to make decisions on very minute details that the average person doesn't really hear. So there's definitely an art to kind of being able to listen to something, put it on a shelf, revisit it later. I think, from a producer's level, that's something that's very important to not get too hung up on these tiny details. A lot of our artists, once they get to their 30th version of a record that they've sent over, it's kind of like you've beaten the horse dead, and so we really have to be careful and learn how to let go as an artist. And same thing as a label, we need to understand when the efforts that we're putting into a record, it might be better to just start something new with that artist and take it from there.
One more thing on fatigue, I think for me, and what you said about working with the track from the very beginning, on my side, if it's not finished when I get it, I'm gonna ask you to finish it, and if there's no release date, I'm gonna tell you to send it to me when you have a release date, because there's kind of a 2-week window for us of the ideal time to send a track is about 2 weeks ahead of release date, because that's about the amount of time it takes for all the back and forth to get it to the curator, to hear back, to get the permission form signed. Too far ahead, the curators will forget about it because there's so much content. Too close to release date, a day or two before, the schedules are full, and it'll be at least another 2 weeks before there's an opening. Sometimes, depends. If they're super stoked on it, maybe they'll fit it in a little faster, but yeah, I'd say there's a sort of 2-week period before a track is released, and to have that release date and the finished file, or else there's no point in us circulating it to the channels yet.
I think one thing that's really interesting in our space, being like the electronic music space, is you have a lot of these producers completing entire songs on their laptop. It's very different from the traditional sort of studio space or band sort of mentality. But one piece of not really advice that I was giving because I don't make music, but advice that I've heard somebody give a producer is that, as an electronic musician, when you open up your laptop or your computer, that's basically rehearsal. That's like the equivalent of a band's rehearsal. And a band will rehearse 200 times before going into the studio and actually recording the record. So a lot of electronic music producers get kind of hung up on making their rehearsals perfect and not really, it's better to rehearse over and over and over again, and then finally you'll get that sort of end finished product down the road, where a lot of people get hung up on sort of small details in rehearsal that don't really matter.
Yeah, and I also will say, if you're sending your music out to anybody and you're asking them for advice on, what you should be doing with the music, what you should do with the drop, or what you should do with the production, people aren't going to respond to that. So if you're pitching your music to someone, have a plan, have a team, have a release date, send the final master, send the plan, and send everything along with it. If you're saying, this is half done, I don't know when it's coming out, I don't know who my team is, then they're just going to forget about it. But if you pitch it to someone where you have a final master, it sounds great, you have a team around it, you have a release date, and you have a plan, and you send that in an email to someone that you want to support your music, it's going to go a long way. So yeah, now we'll touch a little bit on what the process is when you sign a track for the labels that we're sort of running. So there's a little bit of a difference. The district is partnered with, how many is it? There's about 100 channels partnered with the district now. So a lot of them are curation-only channels, and then some of them are also, they run labels. So so these channels will receive submissions maybe for the channel, or maybe it's for the channel and the label. So actually the technology that we've built will, when you submit a song under that submission hub, it will allow you to say whether or not you want it just to feature it on the channel or you want it to be signed to the label. So I mean, the process there is basically listening to it. I work very closely with Proximity. So sometimes he'll get a submission for the channel and he'll actually really, really like it. So he'll push them to sign it to our label, and then we'll release it that way, which is basically you still get the upload, but then we sign it as a label as well. I'll let Ori and Andre talk a little bit on that as well, in terms of what the process is when you receive a submission and how that works when you're signing it to the label.
Yeah, so on our side, like I mentioned before, we get a lot of submissions a day. Unfortunately, the rate of success is pretty darn low. I think, the most important thing for us is seeing a long-term plan. So we'll usually get an artist sending over one track, or we'll get a recommendation from another artist saying, hey, you should check out this person, or, we'll find somebody on whatever platforms we're on, and we kind of go like, hey, who is this person? Usually we like to receive 3 records on our side. We do single by single deals, so we don't actually sign any artists long term, which is kind of like a very new age way.
This is key.
It's a very new age way of kind of thinking about it. We've encountered so many artists that have kind of been wooed by this deal that was waved in front of them, and then a year down the road they're like, this is the biggest mistake I've ever made, and it sets them back quite a few years. So not to say that our way is better, it's just a different way of thinking about it. But the reason why we like to have 3 singles usually signed from a new artist to start off is so that we know, if we get this amazing record, it's not going to take 9 months for us to get another, record that we're excited about. So we need to know that the artist is ready to enter this space, where a label like Monstercat can really kind of accelerate what an artist is doing, put them in front of, millions of eyes a month. As an artist, you need to be ready for that. It's not just about having one great song. So, we'll spend a bit of time working with that artist on getting that, first few tracks. We'll kind of slot them in the first, maybe a song every 6 to 8 weeks is kind of like a good cadence for a new artist that we're working with. And after that, we go track by track. That's kind of, if the artist wants to go elsewhere, if there's other opportunities, we know that an artist that we work with releasing on another label, coming back to Monstercat, that's only going to help. It's kind of spreading their music around, spreading their brand around, allows them to kind of pull new fans and audiences towards us, and vice versa. It is a very open sort of model. That's really the process. We look at artist brands. You don't have to necessarily have a brand. A lot of what I do is developing artist brands, but you can't come to me and say I have a song and I don't care about the rest of it. A lot of the work that we do, and a lot of work you'll find sort of people like us doing, is taking that idea, taking that thing that makes an artist special and accentuating that, making it bigger, making it bolder, louder. If you don't have that as an artist, and I know a lot of musicians are kind of I want to focus on the music. I don't want to have to worry about logos and names and artwork and things like that. But if it doesn't come from you as an artist, it's not authentic. I can't just make a brand for 50 artists on the label. It's just going to all look like my brand at the end of the day,
That'd be great. No, we're very we're pretty similar to Monster Cat as well. We really only sign singles. Quite until recently, actually, probably in the last year, we started doing more artist development. Just because I think as a singles-based label for doing it the last 4 years, there's some artists that I think when we signed them, they were quite young and they did really exceptionally well on the channel from the start and the get-go. And then other labels who have maybe more finances than us, or maybe a bigger team, can come into to them that we have no exclusivity on. They'll say, okay, you know what, we're gonna go sign them for $50,000, retain, you know, maybe an album deal from them, and then we're just gonna take them and retain all the money on their past masters or whatever it is. And we've seen that happen a few times. So now when we're signing singles, we do the same thing. We're like, okay, if we can get maybe an option deal or a 2-track option deal, it's more incentivizing for us as a company as well, and a smaller label. And then for most of the singles, we just use our network internally. You know, if we sign a song that fits Trap Nation, it goes on Trap Nation. And then because we have a Spotify playlist and an Apple Music playlist, it goes on, you know, those playlists as well. So it's, you know, it recoups revenue quite quickly. And then if it goes on Chill Nation, it goes on Chill Nation. It's pretty simple. And then when it comes to me A&Ring those songs, it's completely different. When I listen to songs for uploading just a track on Trap Nation that I don't sign to the record label, it's just me thinking, okay, what's going to work on the community and what's going to work for analytics-wise, and what people are going to enjoy. And then if I'm signing a song on the label, it's more a sense of, okay, what may people on Spotify enjoy? What will the editorial teams enjoy? You know, it's not just about me and my taste, it's about other people's taste as well. So it's a good like 50-50, especially when I'm signing songs to the record label. And to be honest, if I'm sitting down on the laptop and I'm just like listening to music, I go in a completely different mindset when I'm listening to songs for the label compared to songs for the channel Trap Nation, stuff like that.
So we can talk a little bit about the artists that we're signing, and I think it kind of works across the board in terms of any of the labels, whether or not it's Trap Nation or Proximity or Monster Cat. I think I can speak on behalf of all of us that we really like signing artists that are not known. We like taking a chance on someone and someone that we believe in. So that's, you know, we're not going to sign any major artists, obviously, because they're already signed a deal. So we really like signing artists that we believe in and that maybe have done well on the channel. One thing I will say as a label manager that I really love when I'm working with an artist is their team, and just an organized management team, maybe 1 or 2 people that don't email too much, because there's some managers that just, you know, I'll sign a track with them and then they just bombard me with, you know, new releases, and I'm like, no, let's reel this back in and let's talk about this release we're working on together. It's so important to have an organized team, and to have managers that are chill and know what they're doing and they're organized, and when you send them an email asking for information, they send it all in one email and it's all laid out correctly. So I mean, for me, that's something that's really important to me, and I'll pass it back over to Ori to speak on that.
Yeah, in regards to that, I think that, you know, we definitely live in this age where the attention span on music is just getting shorter and shorter. The commitment level from the user side when it comes to streaming, like, there's really no risk or cost involved with just going streaming a record for 10 seconds, being like, nope, next, on to the next one. And, you know, people like us, people like yourselves, like, we work really hard on getting that record out there. So we experience sometimes a lot of, like, frustrations on both sides where, you know, we put in all this effort, things aren't going necessarily how we want them to go from day one, and kind of to your point on getting a million emails and a million questions and all stuff like that, like, you know, really we kind of believe in, like, trusting in the process, and, like, you know, sometimes these things take time. I think we're all very fortunate that the kind of brands and companies that we've built are based around community. I think that's my biggest piece of sort of feedback or advice for any artist is, you know, it's not about how you get on that 1 million follower playlist. It's about how you build a community of 100 people and then 1,000 people and growing it from there. Anyone can get lucky by randomly ending up in a playlist, and a lot of people think that they're a lot bigger because they got, you know, a bunch of plays from this one playlist, when, you know, in reality that was, you know, 100,000 people just shuffling on a playlist and randomly listening to your song, maybe not even paying attention, and you don't really retain the sort of brand value or connection to the fan base that way. So we really focus, especially with young and developing artists, about finding their, like, tribe, you know, like, their people who will stand behind them, wave their flag around. The Monster Cat fan base in particular, like, they're batshit crazy, as I'm sure some of you guys know. And really, like, you know, they'll get behind an artist not because they're, you know, playing the biggest festivals or whatever, like simply because they love the music or they love the connection that that artist can make with the audience. So, you know, that's a really important thing that we really drive to our artists, to our managers. Yeah.
I think on the note of community and the types of communities that Monster Cat fosters, or these YouTube channels in general, the Nations, Mr. Suicide Sheep, and any of our proximity, any of these channels, I think a very important point about it is it's not necessarily that the audience is going there to hear one person's song. It's more about the fact that they're dedicated, diehard fans for these personality, human-based curation brands that have been built by people like Andre or whoever else runs another channel. These people engage with the communities that they've built on a daily basis and have really built their followings around a trust for their curation process being human and not necessarily just as a label. I think we were going to talk about maybe a little bit of the difference between a label channel and a curation channel. A label channel on YouTube is only promoting their own tracks, whereas a curation channel is promoting their own label releases, but as well as anything else that they enjoy. So people who go to the channels to listen trust that this is a human process and they're there to enjoy the interaction with that specific community that's been built. So there's a lot of appreciation for the time that goes into building that personal engagement around the brand as a whole. So people will love the song for the fact that it's on Trap Nation or Mr. Suicide Sheep, and that's what makes them love the song.
And it's a incredibly powerful thing. It can also be a little dangerous. We sometimes get the fan who knows or hears a song and goes like, oh yeah, like Monster Cat's the artist behind that song or things like that, and not quite understanding the relationship. So I definitely think it's our kind of duty as these, community leaders to make sure that we're shining light on the artists, make sure that there's people understand what it is that we're promoting. You know, Monster Cat's the umbrella, but really, without all these amazing artists, like there's no Monster Cat. So.
Wow, Mr. Suicide Sheep makes a lot of songs every day.
Yeah, it's crazy when you hear stuff like that. I'm sure, everyone thinks that Andre's pumping out all these crazy tunes.
Like a god, literally a god.
Can we talk a little bit about options for marketing a single? So there's no album behind it. There may not be tour dates behind it, but it's just a song that's coming out, and what are our options around that? I mean, one thing that I've been experimenting with lately is Spotify pre-saves. If the artist that we're working with has a big enough social following, and I'll look at that before I actually launch the campaign, because if there's not a big enough social following, then it won't do very well. But if you have an artist that has people on Instagram and Facebook that really love them, then we'll do a pre-save campaign about 2 weeks out. And what I have learned from working with our distributor is that this actually affects the Spotify algorithm. So if we get enough pre-saves, then that shows Spotify that there's interest, and that actually helps it get into more of the auto-curated playlist. So that is one thing that I've been experimenting with a little bit that has helped a lot on certain releases that I've been working on. But Andre, Ori, can you speak a little bit more about how we can market just a single release and how we can do that just digitally?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to my label, obviously artists are always asking, how are we going to market this single? How are we going to market this single? And we actually have certain tiers when it comes to certain artists that we're working with. So, for example, like a big artist that we help develop a lot is this one called Mickey Vallon. So obviously, when you have a huge network like Trap Nation or Chill Nation or something like that, you're going to want to figure out ways to utilize everything as much as possible. Whether that means studying YouTube analytics and figuring out, like that playlist does that, or maybe you're trying to figure out how suggested videos work and you're going out and doing that. When we first signed Mickey Vallon, which had this single called Meet Me, I thought it was fantastic. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is gonna blow up. It's like one of those singles I already knew was gonna blow up before it was gonna do well on the channel anyway. So when we put it on the channel, my goal was just to put in every playlist I could possibly own imaginable, just push in everything. And I know that sounds like a little kind of almost like a dictator move, but as a curator, I know that song. I just knew the audience was going to love that song so much more than a regular upload at that point. And it worked. It got 50 million views in like 6 months. For I think it was like our 3rd release on our label at that time as well, which was monumental. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then what I did from there, I was like, okay, how do I translate YouTube viewers to Spotify, right? Because YouTube, unfortunately, doesn't pay as high as Spotify or Apple Music. And you know, obviously he was concerned. He's like, okay, we have all these views, but like, how do we get Spotify plays? I was like, okay, like let's go in the comments because you know the community is quite engaged and say, okay, like for every for every save that this song gets on Spotify, you know, I'm gonna give, or for every 1,000 saves that this song gets on Spotify, I'm gonna give out like a T-shirt or something like that. Obviously, I can't track the saves on my end. He can on his artist analytics. So I was like, okay, let's just give out T-shirts as much as possible. Just do giveaways, and it worked. It actually worked pretty well. And then we did like CTA overlays, which was a past thing that YouTube disabled recently. But it was just pushing.
Call to action.
Yeah, call to action. Sorry, CTA is call to action. Just pushing fans towards listening to the song on Spotify on a playlist. And there's a trick to it as well. If you create, you can do it 2 ways. Like some people just say, okay, listen to the song on Spotify and they link to the single. But if you actually link to a playlist with the single inside the playlist and they press play on the playlist, it just repeats over and over and over again, which just recurs more plays, obviously. And to Spotify's algorithm, if someone's replaying a song over and over again from start to finish, you know what that means? You're going to keep going up in the ranks. So that was like another thing that we did for Apple Music. I think at the time when we signed that single, Apple Music wasn't as big as it is now, so we just didn't really look at Apple Music as much as we are right now. But we were just trying to push people there. And actually, ironically, because it went off so well on YouTube, it got a lot of iTunes purchases as well. And then on this, we did a bunch of other stuff. We used like TikTok. Well, we used Musical.ly, which is now TikTok. We did a huge campaign on there, which is really monumental to its growth. Just getting it in like millennial and Gen Z people using the song to dance to it. If anyone doesn't know what TikTok is, it's like a massive viral. It's basically like Vine recreated, Vine 2.0. You just dance to music. So we did that at the time because we had a big account. And then on the other side, I'm trying to think. We had one more thing that was really monumental to its growth. I'm not gonna remember it, but TikTok was a big one. That was actually a really big one. I'm glad I remember that.
Pretty sure TikTok is how Old Town Road became.
Yeah, Old Town Road blew up because of it. Every top 40 single, it's big on TikTok. No, not actually. Old Town Road though actually did blow up on TikTok. That's like a huge single for them, and they use it in case studies actually.
Awesome. Ori, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think we good. Yeah. Okay. I think Audrey covered, most of the kind of cookbook items that are really important for marketing a release. There's a lot of just different platforms. People are engaging with them in different ways. So having kind of unique strategies for each one is important. Even, simple things on our end that we've kind of learned over the years, like when we create like promotional assets for our artists, like, artwork related things or whatnot. We used to kind of make one asset and post it on every platform. And really over the years, we've kind of learned that, there's different types of content that will work in different places for connecting with different types of audiences. We all have Twitter, Instagram, Musical.ly accounts, Facebook, and whatever, but we probably don't all engage in those equally. Some people are more Facebook oriented. So trying to learn how that audience wants to engage with content versus an Instagram audience, those are kind of some things that you learn over time, and that's also very different for different artists. The biggest driver behind any of our kind of like marketing or communication initiatives is just talking to the artists. We'll sit down early days on the record and just have like an open, honest conversation and kind of try and extract that thing that an artist wants to convey. Because I find if you're able to capture that and put that in front of the audience, it's going to be a lot more captivating than, if we sit and say, hey, here's the list of 20 things that we do for a release, and we're going to do the same thing for every artist. Like, that unique thing is what's going to take a record from being, successful to a smash. A smash.
Make a splash. So we can talk a little bit too about success stories, and I think Christine would be someone good to speak on this, just in terms of seeing something come in to her inbox, and then sort of pitching it out to any of our channels, and then seeing it take off, Elenium is a really good example of that, which is an artist. I'm not sure you guys know Elenium, really big EDM artist that was actually sort of supported by Mr. Suicide Sheep in its early days, and now he's kind of blown up and he's doing really well. So Christine
Kind of
will
blown up, just a little.
kinda. He's kind of a big deal.
Madison Square Garden show coming up, like pretty
Yeah.
big.
It's kind of an interesting thing to watch happen, and I think we've all experienced that. Elenium, Eden is another example as well, both through Seeking Blue, Mr. Suicide Sheep, where Seeking Blue didn't necessarily release these artists' first track, but found them along the way and did some releases with these artists, and through their online YouTube communities built an awe sort of around these artists. And once they were sort of given this platform through one channel, other channels in the community would support these artists as well, and they kind of became these sensations across multiple channels. And that's kind of one of my favorite things to do with my job, is see how many channels we can get to upload the same song on release day. And it's pretty awesome when you get 10 or 12 of your channels all putting out the same song at the same time and really making that splash. So
And I find it only really works with certain artists.
yeah, like the ones that have the stories of the build-up.
Yeah, it boils down to like fandom. You know, like there's something, obviously, you know, when you have all these different curation channels, everybody wants to be the one channel to put up that track or that video, because you want all the traffic directed to their video. They don't want to share that with everybody else. But there's like a handful of artists that it doesn't matter who you hit up, everyone will gladly like get behind them and support that.
Yeah.
I do wish there was a bit more of that. I understand obviously why not everyone's going to upload the same records every day. But yeah, it really boils down to fandom. Like when a channel or community can recognize that, like, you know, this is going to do good for us as well as everyone else, then like we all win, the artist wins, and that's kind of the most important thing.
There's one that maybe Andre can help me talk about, which is Dinoro in my mind. A little bit about that. That one, he was an artist from Sweden, I believe. Slovenia. Well, I'm just going to let you tell this story.
Excuse me, Roy. No, so this actually, to be honest, I didn't even upload the single, so I don't know that big of a story behind it. But I'll give my story on it based on what I know. The single was signed to this small. It was actually a cover. It's a cover of "In My Mind" by how do you pronounce his name? Gigi. I don't know. It's a really big single in Europe, and it was a cover. It was just this like deep house, space house cover. I don't know the genre. And it got submitted to us, and it was kind of just taking off on Spotify organically. I think it got a really good save rate, and just, you know, it was getting pushed. And then within like a month time span of it basically being sent to us, it got signed to it got signed to Sony Germany, I'm pretty sure, and then
Yes.
Sony US, and then Sony Global as a whole. And they were like, okay, you should upload this. You know, it's taking off. And I'm like, yeah, you know, maybe I'll upload it on House Nation or something like that because it's a house song. So I uploaded House Nation, and then I actually uploaded the wrong audio because they didn't send me the MP3, so I ripped it on SoundCloud. So stupid, so dumb. So I uploaded on House Nation, and they're like, this is the wrong version. This is the one that we didn't sign. This is like the old version it's like unmixed and mastered and stuff like that. I'm like, so what? Like, it sounds good. And they're like, no, like, take this down. I'm like, okay. And it was doing probably like 1 million views a day at that point. I was like, you want me to take this down? And they're like, yeah, you gotta take it down. I'm like, okay. So take it down. This is a true story. I put it on Chill Nation because that was only like the second. I didn't want to re-upload on House Nation. I put it on Chill Nation as this kind of like experimental track. I was like, oh yeah, here guys, like it's not really that chill, but it's pretty cool. And everyone's like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then it just took off, literally like 2.5 million views a day, and it's still doing like I think 300,000 views a day. It's like at 450 million views. We only uploaded 8 months ago, something crazy like that.
It was like the #1 record in 12 European countries.
Yeah, it was #1 on Global Shazam for like 50 weeks straight in almost every country. It was in today's top hits on Spotify. It's a huge record.
really interesting. I actually went to his SoundCloud not that long ago, and it's interesting to see how the followers don't relate to the success.
One hit wonder. No, I'm just kidding. I hope not.
I think he's still under like 10,000 followers on SoundCloud.
Yeah. He doesn't. Unfortunately, it's just one of those artists where it just pops off globally on like this weird major label scale, because it really is a major label scale. When a major label picked it up, they pretty much just forced it in everyone's mouth. Like, here, take this song, look at the analytics.
They actually just put out a recent single from Dinoro, and I got that one from Sony to send out to all of our channels. So that went up on Chill Nation, and I can't remember how many exactly, but
Let's just say it's not doing 2.5 million views a day.
yeah.
It's original. It's his first original single. Yeah, because the last one was a cover.
It's actually interesting. Out of all the channels that uploaded, we obviously thought Chill Nation would be the one that would be performing the best because of the last single, but it's actually this other deep house channel that we have called Music Tap, and we were all very surprised by that. But anyways, that was a cool success story of a small artist in Europe just popping off.
Slovenia.
Oh my God.
You know Donald Trump's. Yeah, no, you said Sweden. Donald Trump's wife is from Slovenia. No.
Alrighty. On our side, actually, I'm just curious. By show of hands, who here has heard of Crab Rave? Anybody?
Oh, come
Yes,
on, you guys.
maybe?
Really? Crab
No?
rave?
Okay. So last year, like I'd say, like, you know, the first few months of the year, probably like January, February, we were trying to think, you know, what's Monster Cat's annual April Fool's Day joke gonna be? You know, what do we want to do? In the past, we've like pretended to launch like a Monster Cat on Ice event, and like, you know, just different like funny things like that for the community. And our director of A&R hit us up and was like, you know, actually one of our artists who also makes like the most insane music videos himself, crazy like visual designer as well, he's working on this like really weird concept for a music video. And we're like, okay, cool, like we'd love to see it. So he sends us this song, very simple, kind of like tropical house kind of beat song, like super simple, no vocal or anything. I'm not gonna play it. And the music video was basically a like 3D island with these crabs that dance around on the island, and there's a bonfire, and there are like all these like hundreds of dancing crabs, and you know, visually it's like, you know, one of the most amazingly created videos, and the song is really like kind of like fun, but we thought it would just be like a funny thing. We put it up for our fans. We're like, oh, okay, cool, this is, you know, a great April Fool's Day joke. We didn't really think much more of that. And then we started noticing that, you know, people were taking like images and GIFs of this crab and, you know, making memes out of them and whatnot. And there was this one kid, I don't know how this started, but people were making memes that was basically like these crabs dancing, and then it would say something like horrible that you like, something like terrible that you'd never want to see. Like, you know, I failed my exam and got kicked out of university, and then there's like crabs dancing in the background, and everyone was doing all these like, you know, crazy ones about like, you know, there was one that was like Obama is gone and the crabs are dancing, and just all these like really weird things that we couldn't understand. But what basically happened was that this became like a part of internet meme culture, and it like spread way further than we could have ever imagined. The song right now, you know, our video on YouTube has 50 million plays on it in under a year, or actually it was April, so just over a year. You know, we were trending on the hot tracks, not even dance, but like hot tracks on Billboard with like Drake and like Ariana Grande and like Crab Rave. It was just a very weird, like bizarre thing that nobody can really understand. If you guys are familiar with PewDiePie, he's like a big, massive gaming personality. Is he second biggest YouTube channel now?
I think he's second next to
sub
T-Series,
to PewDiePie.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So, you know, he adopted this meme and was using the song in all of his videos, and you know, it was just such a phenomenon that as a label, you know, we couldn't have really expected. It's the kind of thing you can't manufacture. But once you see that going off, you kind of just have to like embrace it. And like, you know, we started, instead of reaching out to like curators of music channels for support. We were reaching out to like meme YouTube channels for support. And like, you kind of have to take the strategies that you adopt for your industry and try and push them into different directions. So check it out. Literally just type in crab rave on whatever device you're on, and it's it's pretty insane. And what makes me so proud of it is like, you see a lot of people kind of taking the like shortcuts to making like memes where the music isn't quality, the video isn't quality, but like there's just something like memeable about that. You're talking about Old Town Road or whatever, like stuff like that. Like, I couldn't sit there and go like, oh yeah, but this is like a very quality piece of product. But for me, like when we put out this record, when we put out this video, like we were all really proud that like we created something that was like amazing and funny, but also like very high quality. And so I think that that's kind of the cross sect that we like to kind of approach this new like meme music culture that you see popping up.
I feel like a big takeaway for you guys, just based on that, is human choices. So it's not, how do you fuck around with the Spotify algorithm and get into the playlist? How do you do this? How do you do that? It's all about human choices and making decisions along the way based on who your audience is and who your community is, and embracing that, which I think is huge.
All I was going to say was that I've definitely received some artist or track packages lately that have meme folders in the marketing package along with the audio files. Meme marketing, it's real.
Meme music is like a real thing, and it's really taking off.
Sucks.
And I think it's it can be a little dangerous too. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's something that we're gonna see like happening more and more in the future, is like meme songs. And TikTok is like the land of meme music.
Awful.
But it's also great because, it's awful if you look at it on a like, you look at one specific song or one specific video and you go like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't understand how this is what, kids these days or whatever are listening to. But as a whole, I think that like platforms like these and like this sort of meme music culture is bringing like the importance of music back into like the next generation. And that's super important. And we can't kind of ignore the fact that like, yeah, you know what? We might not like these songs, or we might not like how these songs are like getting big, but at the end of the day, like music is still growing on that level, and you kind of have to embrace that and, inject it with some like high quality stuff too, or else, we're all screwed.
Then we don't have jobs. Let's talk about horror stories. What kind of things have happened with you guys that you would give advice on what not to do as an artist in terms of running labels and communities? Christine, you probably have some.
Shannon and I like to send each other screenshots of terrible emails that we get all day, every day. It's just very enjoyable. But basically, I would say for me, and the amount of content that's coming in, it's very, very important to me that it's just like the key elements that are sent, like the release date, your things are titled properly. And when one of those things aren't there, it causes so much loss of time. But what not to do, I would say it's more what to do. Don't send an audio file that has like letters and numbers and underscores and whatever. Send the audio file how you want people to see it. And yeah, just stay organized and make it easy for the people that you're asking for help to do what you're hoping for with it. It's just those really little things every day on such a high level of content coming in that makes things nightmarish. So I'd say that's a big one, those little details.
For us, really, it's about like respect. You need to be patient, but you also can't just rely on curators, labels, you can't rely on anyone to provide you with success. So, we'll get a lot of artists reaching out, sending us music, and, we'll turn it down and they'll kind of come back and be like, well, what? Like, I don't understand. I spent 80 hours on this, therefore it must be good enough. And, I think what's the most attractive for us is seeing people who are going to like do it, whether they have our support or not. Those are the people that I want to get behind, because then the success doesn't just depend on what we bring to the table. We want to find people who are going to succeed, whether they have, the tens of millions of subscriber YouTube channel behind them, or they're starting from scratch. You really have to have patience, and you need to be like humble, and the right people will find you and will support you. But if you're sitting there kind of expecting it to all fall in your lap, or expecting that like your hard work deserves rewards, like that's not how it works. I learned not to send Andre DMs. Last time we were on a panel together, that was his biggest piece of advice.
That's actually a very good point, is if you send something to someone, and you might have them on Facebook or Instagram as well, and you might have their phone number, unfortunately, don't send someone an email and then send them a Facebook message and maybe a text asking if they've received the email, and then send them another message on top of that being like, did you receive this 600 messages I just sent you? It's really, it actually will make me not want to work with someone if they're constantly following up like that. It's, we all get a lot of emails, and I mean, if we want to release it, we'll put it out. Following up like that is just super cringy, and I don't suggest doing it. Send it out, be confident, be organized, send all the information in one email, and if you don't get a reply, leave it and move on to the next thing.
Yes. One thing I just wanted to add about following up is that it is okay to follow up, but within respectful time frames. I would say, if a week and a half goes by, I sometimes appreciate a follow-up, because I'm like, oh, wow, I did miss that. Thank you for following up. But being aware of maybe how much the people that you're working with have going on, it's like, okay, is 2 days actually a realistic time frame to hope to hear back? Maybe not. So keeping that in mind as well, just the patience and all of that. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure Andre can speak a little bit to what's happening in the world of YouTube and the changes that have happened in terms of law in Europe and that kind of thing. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, a little bit, sure. No comment. No. No, I mean, obviously YouTube's grown a lot in the last 6 years. I mean, I'm pretty sure they only enabled monetization on their platform in like 2007 or 2006. So even monetization, when I started the channel in 2012. Even monetization, when I started it, it was quite a new policy for them, and all these different things that they were organizing and trying to introduce to this growing platform with all these new users. In the last 6 years, they've definitely introduced a lot of new policies and a lot of new changes that have affected definitely new channel owners, people that are coming in, and new creators and new curators trying to create channels and trying to do something similar to what we're doing now. I think they have a lot of new policies that almost like disable that in some ways, especially if you want to make money doing it. To a certain standard, I think this is probably wrong, but I think it's 10,000 subscribers and you can't monetize. Like, you can't monetize up until 10,000 subscribers now, or 1,000.
Well, I have a small channel of my own, and what happened with that one was wasn't gonna do it, but Bedroom Bliss. Check it out if you like lo-fi house music or experimental bass. But what happened for mine? It was 4,000 hours of watch time a year. That was the policy there. I think on some level, it did make sense to add some sort of threshold of you need to do this to achieve monetization, or else I can imagine the accounting for YouTube of whoever person is on YouTube that has a channel given monetization. That is a lot of accounting.
Yeah, no,
a few cents.
It's not a bad thing. I was just saying these are policies they're introducing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think that's good, because if everyone knows like the apocalypse, whatever it's called, we know. Yeah. I'm talking to them, obviously. when YouTube was putting ads on like inappropriate videos or mature content that advertisers didn't want their ads obviously served on, and it made this whole big ordeal where advertisers were pulling out millions of dollars from YouTube's ad banks, which would affect content creators obviously, and then it would affect CPMs and all these different things. So what YouTube did was they introduced a policy like that, so that wouldn't necessarily happen. Obviously, there's still issues, but I definitely think it helped. Even with that stuff, I mean, besides monetization, obviously the algorithm changes because actually I watched a video on this 6 months ago. This guy did a super like I don't know, like large. He just basically went into YouTube's algorithm and tried to figure out how how these news channels, these like weird fake replica news channels, were monetizing all these like videos that they're putting up. So what he found out was, or what he saw was, these bots from Russia and certain servers in China. This is actually real. This is still happening, I'm pretty sure. No, it's not conspiracy. This is a real thing. They would create like multiple channels, like 10 to 15 channels, and upload random news, like robotic voice videos. It was created in this weird like server or something. You could tell if you watch each one, all it is it's basically news 2019, Donald Trump does this, and it's a robot speaking, and then there's different flashes of like Donald Trump, walking with his son, or like Melina walking with her son, whatever it is, and then the next video is just a different format or a different phrase or a different like format, the way they're organizing the video clips. And what it does is it's basically creating all these different things to basically it's weird, but it spams it into YouTube. It all monetizes it, and then these channels get shut down a week later, and then just redoes it again, and it redoes it again, and it redoes it again. And that's actually, I think that's why YouTube introduced that policy with like the 4,000 watch hours, because these channels were just doing this, and it became this huge. It got 10 million views on YouTube, getting this huge issue. So YouTube's, and that's based on the algorithm, really. That's based on their photo capturing algorithm to look at videos and content ID it based on their images. So YouTube always changes the algorithm when it comes to content ID, which I can't get into Article 13 because I don't know anything about it, but that's a whole nother topic. And then they change their algorithm when it comes to suggesting videos as well, because there's always issues when it comes to suggesting videos. If you have a video that's organically doing really well with a like to dislike ratio, a lot of comments, a lot of people organically coming there, maybe from Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it's obviously going to do much better than a video that's stagnant, that's not getting any organic traction, or maybe a video that's just not doing well, maybe like to dislike wise, or people just aren't commenting on it.
Something else that's kind of happening that might be relatable to an independent artist. We don't have to talk about the entire issue because it's massive on a scale that might not be necessary to talk about here. But as an independent artist, talking about content ID, when you release a track through a certain distributor, if you are doing it independently, and they ask you if you would like them to do content ID for you, and you say yes, that means that they're tracking your content for you on, well, for YouTube specifically, it tracks your content, and then gives you a decision. Do you want us to block the video? Do you want us to take the video down? Do you want us to leave it up and take the ad revenue from that? They're changing a lot of policies around how content ID works, and it's right now causing some major problems for our channels because of the fact that at District, what we do is we make sure that before these videos go up, they have the proper licenses in place. And right now what's happening is there's these auto scans happening where things that have been approved to go up by the artist, and the artist has given permission to the channel to monetize, this auto scanning system is picking things back up that have already been approved. And on a large scale, when you have thousands of video uploaded, and it's happening over and over again on a weekly basis, you're having to redo all the work that you already did. And I think the biggest problem there is a gap between communication from the artist and the distributor. So maybe just a little reminder that if you are an artist and you're working with these channels and you have a distributor who you know is doing content ID for you, let them know that you've given a license to a channel and that they have permission to monetize. So that way, and it might not even be the distributor doing it on purpose. It might not be them manually deciding to reclaim the video, but just be aware that you may have to ask them to take the step to keep an eye on those claims, because on a major level, it's a big problem.
Yeah, But it is important. I mean, like, you don't want to be leaving money on the table. Like, that's
Well,
what it
I
boils
mean,
down
what
to.
I would say is I feel like a lot of these claims are coming from, I'll ask an artist, I'll be like, who's your publisher? And they'll say something like TuneCore or DistroKid. Guys, do not give TuneCore or DistroKid your publishing administration. Keep it until you can get a proper publishing deal with a publisher that's actually going to make you more money. Do not give your publishing away. And when you sign up for a distributor like a TuneCore or a DistroKid, pay them the $10, allow them to release your song into the stores, and do not give them any other rights, because that's just your money. And they're not really doing anything there. And that's like the biggest advice I can give in terms of just keep your publishing to yourself until it makes sense to sign it to someone else. So I'd like to open up some questions, actually, if anybody has any questions. You there?
Tackle that. How do you tackle remixes in 2019, and is there any legal complications?
I don't know a whole lot about how you guys do this, so.
I don't sign remixes. You can. I don't sign them, and
more
a lot
just for
of
curation?
samples that you can get are already pre-cleared, so you can buy a sample pack that's pre-cleared. I think Andre can probably speak a lot to that, but in terms of a label or an upload, we normally don't sign remixes or upload them because it's just kind of messy and hard to get permission.
If you own the rights to the song and you've created a remix, then that's totally fine. But for unofficial remixes, there are things that can be done. It just depends how much, from a curation perspective, how badly that person wants to upload the song. Are they willing to do the work to find the original rights holder and ask for permission to upload the remix? So that's kind of the process that I use. Is if someone says, I found this unofficial remix and I really want to upload it, I look into, okay, who owns the rights to the original version? And if I have a relationship with them, it's not that hard for me to reach out, and the answer might be yes. But if it's like, I am not connected to these people at all, unfortunately, I can't help you. But covers are definitely more of an issue, and usually I steer clear personally of dealing with covers or cover remixes, because if I send it out to our channels and they end up in trouble over it, then the responsibility falls on me to deal with that. So, yeah.
Mr. Remix.
I'm afraid.
Regarding labels with signings, use Splice. Honestly, just get a Splice membership, and that's where you can get all your samples. Every major artist uses it. It's the best thing on the world for new music production. For remixes on the channel, because I know exactly what you're asking. In the past, when I started the channel, getting permission was a little bit hard as a wee little 16-year-old. So I just kind of uploaded it. I was like, oh yeah, fuck it, risk for the biscuit, whatever. So put it on the channel. And
Still happens once in a blue moon.
Thank God for YouTube not having great policies back then where things would just stay up for no reason. So that happened. And then, I'm just being honest, guys. And then obviously now in the last 4 years, yes, we get permission for all the remixes. If we find a remix for, let's say Sony, we'll work through District and we'll make sure Sony clears it and we'll upload it 99.99% of the time.
There's still that one
0.01%.
point
That's okay, guys.
where I message Andre and I'm not happy.
You can't be perfect. No one's perfect. Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, I think are you asking from an artist perspective?
Yeah.
Okay, if you have a remix, my personal take would be like, put it out in the world. Don't monetize it. Like, don't cross that line. But if you make something that's really cool, put it out. Like, get discovered, get found, create fans, and then use those fans to monetize your original work or things that you can get cleared.
SoundCloud?
Cool. Thanks so much.
Is the district the primary submission conduit for? Oh, thanks. Is the district the primary submission conduit for all of the nation's channels?
If you have no contact with the nations directly, then the answer is yes. So basically, I can.
Said no. You're screwed. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I can help facilitate and help you help. Basically, I can help tell you whether or not it will get. Now I'm. What do you think, Andre?
Put it this way: when I need to get a hold of Andre, I go to Christine.
That was my
We built a
question. That's what I
submission
needed to hear.
platform.
Thank you.
We have a submission platform. I will send you the link.
Thank you.
You can submit to any channel you want to. You can pick whether or not you want to submit it as a label release or if you want it a featured channel. And so that's honestly the best way to submit music to any of the channels we work with is through that platform, which I'll send you the link for.
Thank you very much, Shannon.
Wait. I'm not dissing anything. I check my email every day. I read almost every single email. Just sometimes there's emails that I just don't want to reply to. But I listen to almost all the songs submitted in my email anyway. I'm very active listening to music.
Always send it to Andre or the email that's available or the submission platform. But if you are also connected to the district, there's no harm in saying, hey, Christine, I sent this song to Andre. I haven't heard back yet. Can you maybe nudge him on it? And if I listen to the song and I'm like, yeah, this sounds like something you probably enjoy, I can hit him up and be like, hey, can you check this out? Or if I'm like, this is not a fit for Trap Nation, I'll probably just tell you.
Oh, okay. With that being said, then, is Sam still the guy at Rap Nation?
Sam is still the man.
The
yes.
guy. R&B Nation also.
Yeah, he does R&B Nation too. I mean, there's a lot of different emails, but yeah, Sam is the Rap Nation dude, yeah.
Any other questions? You in the back.
I'm just wondering for all you guys, how do you feel about platforms such as Submit Hub and Label Radar compared to building personal connections with the people who run the platforms and submitting through them?
Well, my personal experience with Submit Hub was that I did try it. And I think the biggest problem for me was that there are a lot of artists on there who don't totally understand the copyright issues. So we were getting a lot of unofficial remixes, and there's an expectation on Submit Hub to leave feedback on every track, and that is just such a consuming black hole. I can't tell every artist that submits an unofficial remix why this isn't gonna work. So that's kind of what happened with me for that. The submission platform that we've built is designed for the way that our curator community functions. So yeah, that's been my personal experience with Submit Hub.
I think these platforms were designed in a way to just make it more streamlined and to create more of a level playing field. So we're actually one of the launch partners with Label Radar, which is basically all these platforms function in a very similar way. The most important thing is actually who is on the other end, who are the people that are checking these things, who are the label partners, the curators. One platform to rule them all would be fantastic, but that's going to take time and then development. And we find that, for the masses, that's the best way to do it. I'll give you guys a very grim sort of statistic. Before we were using Label Radar, we had a different proprietary kind of platform that we used. It kind of sucked and it was clunky, but over the course of 3 years that we were using it, we received about 77,000 demos, and we signed 3 artists. So the odds or the percentage is almost negligible there, but for demos, we do it as a community service. We really want to make sure that we're listening to what our audience is submitting, because a lot of people sending Monstercat music, they discovered us as fans. They fell in love with dance music. They started to learn how to produce. We want to have that connection and maintain that. It's not the be-all, end-all if your first 30 demos get rejected. So we really have to kind of instill that with our people who are submitting, that keep going, use this as encouragement. The odds are stacked against you, but that's the music industry. That goes across any board. So I'd say using these platforms are great, especially ones that have charts or community engagement. You might not get the attention of the label the first time you send the song through, but if other people are listening to the songs and going hey, this is actually really great, then the A&Rs, the label, they see that people like this, and they're more willing to give it a shot.
And I think too, and you guys can probably agree, because we get a lot of just blind demo submissions, just someone gets our email or whatever and sends me an email about it, and Christine does as well. And what I really love to see is when someone's submitting a demo to us, they're they love the community, they understand the community, they talk about the community, they understand the channel, and the song that they're sending reflects the channel. So Christine will get an email that says, here's a song that's going to make a splash. It's going to go up on Selected, Mr. Suicide Sheep, Trap Nation, Cloud Kid, and Mr. Rebels, which are all just completely different genres of music. And she'll just look at that. She probably might not listen to it because she's just like, you're just looking at the biggest channels in our network. You're not even looking at what the communities are. And so that's a big thing as well, is when you're trying to get someone to support you, understand what their community is. Go to the channel, or go to their Instagram, go to their Facebook, look at the engagement, look what people are saying, and look at what they're saying and what their community is saying, and understand that, because that's going to go a long way. If someone sends me an email that says, I've been a fan of Proximity for a long time, I love this upload, and I love this, and I love that you uploaded this artist, and I'll actually listen to that, and they have a way better chance of being signed because they're paying attention to that community. And I think that's really important, is that, human connection that we sometimes forget in a digital world.
Thanks so much.
Just to kind of off what you said, one of our biggest pet peeves is when we get sent a record and someone goes, this is the perfect song for Monster Cat. Like, this is such a Monster Cat song, and it sounds like all the other stuff you guys put out. And it's like, well, no, like we have all that stuff already. We want things that are different. We want artists to be unique. If you're sending us something that sounds exactly like these 3 other artists that we're already working with, well, like, thank you, but we're going to keep working with those 3 artists unless you're really that good. So, I think it's important to be like an individual. It's very difficult to, but it's incredibly important to be an individual. And for us to recognize that you bring something like new to the table. We're an electronic label, so don't send me a acoustic country record, but like, don't send me something that's exactly like the last 10 records I put out either.
I think for myself, it's a little different in terms of, I understand why people suggest or give their key channel targets that they do, even if they haven't done the research, because at least it shows that they are aware of the network. But I definitely appreciate when a little bit of research is done. It makes me laugh when it's, a tropical house song and they're asking for it to be on Trap Nation. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's like, come on, you put in a little more research time on that one.
Wait, we practice this joke. Trop Nation.
Trop Nation.
Tropical House Nation. I'm not starting it.
It was.
Oh,
there
he
we
got
go.
it.
He got
Come
it.
on, guys.
We practiced this
Come on.
earlier.
Yeah. We practiced it earlier.
Any other questions?
Last chance. Going once.
Something.
Going up. Oh, we got one.
Oh,
we
we
got
got
one.
it. Okay. Oh, sweet.
My name is Melody, and thanks for sharing this information today. I feel like this is a pretty new world to me in terms of online communities and that type of music distribution. You all are more in like electronic genres. Do you find that these type of channels are as prolific, if that's the right word, to other more traditional genres like country or rock or those types of artists that are creating that kind of music? And do you have any suggestions to the rest of us that aren't in your genres that are wanting to pursue those channels?
I would say that from my experience, because my background before the district was, I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Long Live Rock and Roll." I got my start at 604 Records. I'm a fan of rock and roll music. And so that's the world that I came from before the district. And I just remember working with Andre on my first day, and he uploaded a video and it said 80,000 views in the first few minutes. And I was just dumbfounded by it. So I think really what it is the audience for this type of music is younger, and that's how they're consuming music. That's not to say, though, that there isn't an audience for any type of music on YouTube. YouTube is the #1 discovery platform for music. So I think it's a really powerful tool, and I don't think that it's genre specific. And I think that it's definitely worth, go to their guidelines and find out how to build an audience on YouTube. It's, if you do consistent uploads and you have nice looking branding and you have, nice looking thumbnails, and it's all very simple things that you can do to build an audience on platform that I think will work for any type of music. Obviously, for EDM, it's different because of the audience and it's younger, and that's how they consume music. But I think it kind of works for every genre, and I think if you go and you look at any sort of genre on YouTube, you'll see there is a following for it, and there is a way to make it work as long as you're consistently uploading and paying attention to that audience.
Right, but the channels that you're talking about, you aren't seeing necessarily the same kinds of communities being built in other genres as in electronic music.
There are some good indie channels out there for sure that do the same types of things that these channels are doing, same concept, and that do have followings and engagement as well. I think mostly we're just talking about electronic music because that is mostly the focus of our network, but we do have other genre channels. There's Indie Nation, More Indie, Appearon, Aminium, Vertex, and those are all very much successful, more indie, alternative. Some of them do have like touches of electronic, but there are plenty that are not in the district network specifically that do focus on other genres of music doing similar things. So check it out.
Cool.
We actually just signed a classical artist. He's a pianist. We signed him to Proximity, and he does classical covers of big songs. And so we have no idea what we're doing, but so we're asking around. But he actually built his following around YouTube. So he just uploads these piano covers of big songs, and so his entire audience is built on that, and now that's leading him to other things. So there's always a way with YouTube. It's such a big platform, and again, it's a huge music discovery tool. So I think that everyone should use it and understand it and use it to promote music.
I'm sorry, I really also need to just shout out our channel Koala Control for indie music. Yeah, needed to put that one in there.
Okay, we'll do one more. And Kyle, getting quite the arm workout today. We'll finish with you.
Thank you. I'm curious, sorry, Ari, to keep excluding you, but I'm more interested in the non-label stuff. For the curation process for the nation's Spotify playlists.
Yeah, what's up?
Can you
You
speak?
beg.
Can you speak?
You beg him.
We beg you
Kidding.
personally.
Wait, what's actually the question though?
I'm wondering, like, how does the curation process
Oh.
for the Spotify playlist compare to?
Yeah, totally. It's pretty much just cut and copy of what we upload on YouTube, and then I'll throw some like label tracks in there. If artists that we're really good friends with, but maybe the song just doesn't fit the channel, I might throw it in the playlist. Sometimes I Shazam songs and it accidentally goes in there, like random stuff like that. But no, and generally, no. And generally, it's just like cut and copy of the YouTube uploads. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.